As we all know, of course, Dead Rising 4 is the next iteration in that particular franchise and has already drawn a little bit of controversy among long-standing fans because it is removing one of the key features that many would argue makes Dead Rising what it is, and that is none other than the timer. Now, of course, this particular feature did make the first game in particular rather brutal, but it was a sort of roguelike-esque system where you had a certain amount of time to do certain activities, and eventually, you know, you probably would fail and you take the knowledge that you learned and retry again and yada yada yada. It did make a very difficult experience, but a very unique one in combination, of course, with everything else about Dead Rising that was just Dead Rising, everything unique about it, you know, the ability to say, put a bucket on a zombie's head and take photos of it, as well as using weird and wonderful weapons that you can find around the world. And now we have some comments from the Capcom Vancouver executive producer Bryce Cochran and the studio director Joe Nichols. And when Cochran was speaking to Eurogamer, he said, quote, "I think it's really to do with the expanse of our world. We wanted a huge world you could really explore and find things in. With Dead Rising 3 and the rigid timer, it meant people missed so much of what was in that game. So we decided to go in a different direction, remove that, keep it in multiplayer, but really allow somebody to have a new experience in single player, dive into the world and explore to their heart's content. Do what you want, have time to experiment, time to figure things out. It is a change of direction, but we really felt it was the right way to go." Now Nichols said, quote, "We don't want to limit people from finding the hidden stuff, the bonus content. Not everybody's a completionist, but most people do want to feel like they've seen most of the stuff, and that's one of the reasons we made the decision we did with the timing. It's always been super polarizing." To be fair, that is a good point. You know, as much as many people would consider it a vital component of the Dead Rising franchise, and without it, is Dead Rising really Dead Rising? It's obviously drawn a lot of criticism, well, because it is so punishing, because it forces you to this rigid schedule of you have to get to this thing at this time or you cannot do it, that sort of thing. So he is fairly correct in that it has been a fairly divisive feature, but it is in the core of Dead Rising, even if you don't like that particular mechanic. However, there might be positives to this, as we have some comments again, which basically says that the lack of a timer means they can have better pacing and allow the town of Willamette to be more realistic. And it says, quote, "When you had the timer, you had to throw everything into the player's path. Here it's trying to make the player explore the world and find out things about it." So, to be honest, I'm a bit mixed on this because, yeah, the timer was very, very punishing. But I feel, you know, as punishing as it was, it still is, or was rather, a core mechanic of what makes Dead Rising Dead Rising. And without that mechanic, hasn't it kind of just become yet another open world zombie game? That's my concern, that without this core mechanic and a few other bits that have been changed, it won't really be Dead Rising anymore. It would just be another zombie game. One where you can use weird weapons, sure, one where it has the return of the colourful graphics over the brown of Dead Rising 3, sure, but again, that was one of the things rather that made it so unique and so its own game and have its own identity. And while, you know, that wasn't the only thing making it interesting, it is still a key aspect of the game that you're taking away, and I'm just a little bit concerned that the game might be a bit more generic for it. I mean, I hope that's not the case, to be honest, because, you know, as hard as Dead Rising 1 and 2 are, they are still really good games, and I wasn't too keen on Dead Rising 3, to be honest. So, fingers crossed that Dead Rising 4 is a return to form and that the lack of a timer is made up for by having a more fleshed out world, having a world where you are free to explore, discover things about the characters, even the bosses called maniacs in the game, why everyone's there, what actually happens, rather than adhering to this strict schedule. I can definitely see the potential upsides of it, but we'll see. Anyway, let me know your thoughts and opinions, guys. Are you looking forward to playing this game now that there's no timer, or do you think that they've made the wrong choice? Do let me know your thoughts and opinions as always. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.